Hey, Vinnie, thanks very much for having me. I'm really excited to have this opportunity to talk to you about our recent Workday release, which is known as 25R1. It's a release that just went live this past month, this March. And so our customers are all on it now, and it's a pretty jam-packed release. I'm going to be talking to you mostly about what we're doing in financials, but there's some pretty exciting things across the board that I want to share, especially around where we're going with artificial intelligence and with agents and some related things. So I'm looking forward to the talk.
Bob, it's always a pleasure having you. And jam-packed is kind of a redundant term with you guys. I remember when Stan Sweet used to do these, and I would say, "God, you came in within a minute of what you promised." But they were always, you always had them jam-packed with features.
Yep. Yep. I think nothing has changed, and we'll see if I live up to the example that he set. So I'll go ahead and share my slides and put it in slideshow mode. Now, you may notice we do like to start with a safe harbor statement because I am going to share some futures as well as the current release. We've shortened this down quite a lot. So I
I
think,
was going, I was going to say
yeah.
maybe my little snarky comments in the little book helped.
Exactly. Exactly. I think we took that to heart and we've gone and streamlined things a little bit. So there you go.
Just so people understand, this is the fiction book that I wrote. And there are a few snarky things in there, including that how vendors love to read the statement. So thank you for not doing that, and thank you
Yep.
for shortening it.
Yep. Yep. Ours was quite verbose, but we are listening and we are reading your book and we are taking it to heart. So there you go. So the investment themes for this release really tended to focus uh, very heavily around AI and hyperautomation, as I'm sure you're not surprised to hear. We continue to invest significant effort as well in some of our industry capabilities and global expansion and compliance. And so I'll start with those last two. We'll just spend a few minutes talking a little bit about some of the industry highlights, some of the global highlights, and then really dig into the AI area, which I think is probably where you and I are both probably most interested. So, in terms of industry, we continue to deliver some pretty compelling industry-specific capabilities for some of the targeted service industries that we tend to focus on. Professional services is one where we really have been, doing a lot of exciting work. We see a lot of customers operating across the entire platform. And one of the exciting things we just delivered is services CPQ. So CPQ is configure, price, and quote, which is normally used more in a product industry kind of sense. But what we've done with our services CPQ offering is we've essentially automated the quoting process. So professional services firms have historically managed their quoting process very heavily in spreadsheets and not a very kind of systematized approach. And so with services CPQ, organizations can manage the quoting process all through a dedicated application, and when work is accepted, automatically create all of the relevant constructs in Workday across HCM and professional services automation and financials, right? So generating the project, generating the staffing plans, starting to generate the requisitions. And so really kind of automating the entire process and really hitting the ground running when the project starts. So we're pretty excited about that. We've also continued to deliver some key capabilities targeted at state and local governments, like cost pool allocations, which is a pretty sophisticated way of allocating costs at a very granular level. We've done some enhancements around average daily balance reporting for financial services, making that available real time. So no need to run any kind of collection process. And within the healthcare industry, we have advanced our OCR and other capabilities around AP invoicing to the point that our customers can now actually process AP invoices touchlessly, meaning from the time that the supplier sends the invoice all the way through to approval and payment, no human has to touch it. Now, that's not going to apply to every invoice, of course, but in the case where an invoice is backed by a purchase order, we're able to move it all the way through to approval and payment without any human intervention.
On this services CPQ, a lot of product companies are also moving into services, like you said, right?
Yep.
And They many of them have spare parts. Many of them have monitoring services and so on. So is this broad enough to include um, product companies who are looking at service? I guess that's one way to look at it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great question. That is our intention. I think that for our initial release, we didn't really focus on those use cases as much. We really, focused exclusively on the services quoting part of things. But to your point, we do see the examples like spare parts. We do see examples like cases where an organization needs to go out and actually purchase some equipment that they're going to use as part
Right.
of a service delivery process. And so that needs to be included. So I think there's definitely some, road for us to enhance in those directions, but it hasn't yet been a focus.
Okay.
Cool. So then moving on to global. And so, this is an area where we have customers operating in, over 130 countries. But we continue to deliver some key enhancements, including some things with partners like Avalara and Vertex and others. And so we've delivered Avalara ELR, which is for e-invoicing and live reporting for Workday. And that just enables customers to get up and running much faster, less configuration needed for things like e-invoicing, which is becoming more and more a mandate, especially outside the US. We've also started reselling the Kyriba bank connectivity as a service so that customers who need to manage banking relationships with a lot of different banking partners, again, are able to get up and running very quickly, saving significant amount of time during the deployment. We've been enhancing our capabilities for supporting tax in some of the really complex countries like Brazil. Brazil is always the one that you hear about as being one of the most complex and one of the most difficult to manage from a software perspective. And so we've made some great progress there, as well as some other areas in Latin America, like Mexico. And so, our approach, our focus is on ensuring that we're able to support our customers in basically whatever country they're operating in. As I mentioned, we've got customers operating now in well over 130 countries, and that goes beyond even the countries that we've delivered specific functionality for. But one of the key things we've always tried to do is deliver capabilities in a very kind of configurable framework kind of approach. So rather than just having, country one this, country two that, country three that, really delivering things more configurable so that customers can basically manage them in whatever countries they need to.
What would you say is your most complicated, most global customer? Do they have 30, 40 countries, or is
So
anyone using all 130?
So that's yeah, good question. I'm not sure if it's the most, but I think Aon is one that's operating in, I think, over 80 countries now. Netflix is operating in a large number of countries. Cushman and Wakefield is operating in a large number of countries. I don't, when I say 130, that is the superset, right? And so that's basically when we look across all of our customers, they're operating in that many countries. But we do have individual customers operating in, 60, 70, 80 countries.
Okay.
So,
You guys don't talk much about your global capabilities, so maybe
you
this will give you
know,
a chance to do more.
Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned that because that is definitely it's definitely something that we're trying to change because we actually have some very powerful capabilities. I often talk to people about the fact that Workday is not only are we native on the cloud, which is unusual when we look at, financial management systems, but we are very much, we were designed and architected in a globalized world, and when we look at some of our competitors, the fundamental architecture comes back from like the 80s and 90s, really kind of pre-globalization. And so we actually have architected the system from the ground up to be able to operate in a case where you have multinationals operating globally across, 80, 90, 100 countries where they have in some cases very much kind of globalized processes. In some cases things are centralized, so other things are decentralized. And we've really optimized the system to support those models. And I think you're right. We don't do a good enough job of talking about it because it's pretty compelling. And I do hope that we'll do a better job of that going forward. That is definitely something that I'm focused on. So thank you for mentioning that. As we now shift to the AI topic, just kind of setting the stage here, One of the key things that we are trying to really ensure is that when we talk about AI, we're not just talking about it because it's a cool new technology. We're talking about it because it actually delivers compelling outcomes. And these are the outcomes that our customers are looking for, including, as you see here, right? Actionable insights, um, transformation in terms of streamlining processes, and risk mitigation. And AI contributes to all of these. We've made good progress to date, especially on the middle one. We haven't really done, and when I say we, I'm mostly talking about Workday financials. And so when we look at financials, we've done some good work in the last several years around that middle one, around really streamlining processes. I don't think we've made as much progress around insights and around risk mitigation, but this release starts to change that. So with this release that just went live in March, we're starting to deliver some really compelling capabilities that do these things, that really start to provide insights and start to help our customers mitigate risk. One of the building blocks that's going to help with that, I won't say the enablers, but one of the building blocks is the agent system of record that we just recently announced. I think we announced this back in February. And this is really pretty exciting, right? What we see is that there's tremendous interest in AI agents, which go well beyond just kind of rote automation, which go well beyond some of the AI assistant type capabilities that have been delivered in the past, to really being autonomous agents, right? Capable of making decisions, of determining which path to go down. We're in the process of building agents. We see a number of our partners building agents. And so we are looking toward a world in which organizations start to view these agents as part of their workforce, right? And what we're seeing is that our customers are starting to move toward the idea where you've got a workforce that includes a good number of human workers and some number of digital workers, some number of agents, and agents need to be managed just like any other workers. Agents need to be onboarded, they need to be trained, they may need to be retrained. They may train on some bad data, they may need to be taken offline for some period of time. And so the agent system of record is very much designed to manage the overall workforce. Workday is already obviously a leader in managing the human workforce, and so it's very natural for us to extend that to managing the digital workforce. So the agent system of record was announced in, I think, February, as I mentioned. This is an example of what it's going to look like. So it's not available yet, but it's coming very soon. And again, the idea is to provide visibility and manageability over the entire digital as well as human workforce.
So when it comes to other vendors, agents, um, is this primarily just a index to them? What's the integration to the other agents?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm going to go back. And so there are a few different variants. And so one of the things you can see here is on the far right, you've got this kind of third party built where it's registered only, right? So the idea
Yeah.
is that,
Yeah.
you know, just a very simple kind of register with it with us. This agent may not have anything to do directly with Workday data, with Workday processes, but again, the agent system of record is designed to manage the entire digital workforce, and so you can register those agents that way, as well as then we intend to provide the agent gateway, for more kind of direct API integration for agents that have a little bit more direct interaction with the HR and finance flows.
Let me follow up with the question that came up from the recent NVIDIA event, right?
Mm,
Jensen said we're going to move from digital AI, which is agents and co-pilots and all that, to what he called physical AI.
mm.
Yeah, so have AI mesh with robotics and physical aspects of agents, right? Drones and autonomous whatever capabilities. Is this intended to just cover digital assets or also physical assets?
Yeah, that's actually a great question. And I think as we look forward, we see this potentially having applicability across physical as well, right? I mean, again, we see us moving toward a world where these other types of, as you mentioned, drones and robots are part of the workforce that you're managing, just like, an AI agent. And so we think potentially this has applicability that's much broader than what we're describing here. Again, our focus right now is on kind of digital agents, but I would not at all be surprised to see us extend this into the more physical realm.
Well, it'll increase the number of verticals you can play in there.
That's exactly right. So we are building agents ourselves, of course, and we've already delivered a contract agent, a recruiting agent, and we're working on a number of others. And our focus is really on kind of what we call role-based agents. So we're not focusing on an agent to accomplish a single task. We're really trying to view agents more as, filling a role and being able to support humans working in similar roles, taking on some of those tasks, interacting with these folks, and really kind of being managed the same way you would manage a role-based human worker. So that's very good. That's again kind of a key building block as we move forward. And I now want to talk a little bit about some of the work we've done with contracts. And again, we are talking now about the release that we just came out with, this release in March that is now live. And what we see is that our customers are managing huge volumes of contracts, huge volumes of business documents. And these are still, whether or not you're using a kind of full-blown CLM, contract lifecycle management capability or not, these things tend to be not very well organized for being able to get the information you need out of them. You've got lots of different contracts, various overlapping, various kind of interacting, these documents interact with these in different ways. It's difficult for people to have a view about what are the interrelationships between some of these documents. In some cases, there might be conflicting language between them. And so it's very difficult for customers to get a good view of what that's all about. Historically, Workday has used contracts to drive accounting, but we haven't really played in this space, right? So we haven't historically offered our own CLM kind of capability. We've expected that customers manage their contracts somewhere else, but they do load their contracts into Workday in a number of cases for things like supplier contracts, customer contracts, a lease contract, for example, in order to be able to create things like billing schedules that the contract dictates. And so that now changes because we did an interesting acquisition last year of a company called Evisort. Evisort is already a leader in the contract intelligence area. And so, in partnership with this acquisition, we are now offering a true CLM product, so Workday Contract Lifecycle Management, as well as contract intelligence. And as the picture is showing here, the CLM product, Contract Lifecycle Management, is kind of a superset. It includes contract intelligence as well as the full-blown contract kind of authoring and redlining and what you'd expect from a CLM capability. So what we see is that even for customers who already have a CLM in place, who already have some capability to create and manage contracts, contract intelligence is still incredibly powerful because it basically applies AI directly against the contracts, parses them out, understands them, reads them, and is then able to be used as an inquiry and reporting tool against the incredibly rich data that's available in all these contracts. So you can ask questions in a very natural language interface way here, generate an AI model from that question that's automatically applied to all contracts going forward, all available within that contract intelligence capability.
In the early market feedback, who is most interested in CLM? Is there a buying function? Is there an industry more interested than others?
It's a good question. So, historically, if you're asking among the actual Workday customers, like the
Yeah, I
current
mean,
customers,
you've had it now for a year, right? Where are you seeing is there a
yeah.
dominant buying center or industry?
So we are seeing a lot of interest in some of our existing customers, especially in things like the healthcare industry. We're seeing tremendous interest. We have In the past few years, we've been very successful at selling into some of the really large and large hospital chains, large end of healthcare. We're seeing a lot of interest there. We're definitely seeing a lot of interest in some of our customers in public sector, but really it's pretty broad-based.
Okay.
And so again, the as I mentioned before, we've done in the past several years some good work embedding AI in our core financial processes to drive hyper automation, to make processes more streamlined. That's great. But now with the advent of contract intelligence, especially, we're providing some very compelling capabilities leveraging AI to help mitigate risk, to help provide key insights that would otherwise have been very difficult for customers to get, and saving people in the legal department and other areas from having to just slog through, 100-page PDFs, one after the other, trying to identify a key detail. So again, as I mentioned, we've seen interest from, a broad array of our current customers. There's a lot of excitement here.
It's more customer centric billing, customer billing oriented.
Yes, absolutely.
Interesting. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so we're still a little bit in the early days of kind of bringing this in directly to interoperate with the Workday applications. But of course, there's a huge number of standalone customers from the original Eversort acquisition, and some examples are shown here. Keller Williams is a good example where it's a full ROI within 30 days. And Workday is a great example because Workday has been a customer of this for well before we actually did the acquisition. And you can see, I mean, ROI of 3,500%. It's hard to argue with. And 21 days to deploy contract intelligence is great. I mean, we see, customers deploying financials. I would love it if they're able to do it in 21 days, right? It's longer than that. But being able to put this system in place and be getting value so quickly is hugely compelling.